I thought it would be interesting to discuss the start of it all, so I went back and read The Flash issue 1, the first appearance of the Flash. God, was it great. Written by Gardner Fox and art by Harry Lambert, I believe, The Flash's origin was twice as long as Batman's debut, with 16 pages of fun. We start by getting an overview of who the Flash is and start the comic before he got his powers. Then we get introduced to the first Flash, not Barry Allen, but Jay Garrick. We get told that Jay was an unknown student at Midwestern University, where he strikes a conversation with future wife, Joan. He asks her to a victory dance date, where she is hesitant, saying Jay is a scrub on the football team, and she's already been asked by someone else. Jay gets his back up, thinking she is only saying no because he is on the football team. But she corrects him, saying his brains and his build, and she doesn't want to hold him back from being a superstar, which he does not take nicely, stating, "I'll show her." We move on to see Jay in the research lab and find out he has been studying this certain gas for 3 years, and he spends all night doing it more. Stopping to have a smoke, which just looks out of place for a football star and also a future speedster, although, I mean, it is the 40s, but he knocks over his hard water gas experiment and passes out from the fumes, spending a whole night inhaling the fumes until his professor finds him in the morning, rushing him to the hospital. We find out Jay has been between life and death for weeks before making a miraculous recovery. This is our first instant also of a speedster needing to carbo load, or either that or he's just hungry from quite literally just being in a coma for weeks. But anywho, moving on. Here we see the doctor tell the professor the results of the tests that they ran on Jay, stating, "Your boy will be the fastest thing that ever walked on Earth," which seems weird saying fastest thing that will ever walk on Earth, and further explaining how it came from the inhalation of the hard water gas and how it truly affected him. Jay spots Joan out the window and in a flash, no pun intended, runs down to meet her, scaring the doctors, nurses and patients alike as they think there's a hurricane or a ghost or something running through the hospital, man. Then further spooking Joan too, as she didn't see him coming. She mentions that she is on her way to the library to get a book. She never really actually even says what book, but anywho. But without a second to spare, man, Jay literally just without even trying to hide his power, he just runs straight to the library and then back. Joan then asks, what happened to you, bro? That is just, I'd never seen that before. Jay just states that he's now a freak of science before cutting to the chase and asking her to the dance again. She tells him she will only if he plays in the upcoming football match, as the team cannot lose without him playing. So obviously being a simp, he agrees. As he sits on the sideline patiently waiting, he's finally called on to play, and he uses his newfound super speed to pile up touchdowns, inevitably winning the game. So once again, he just does not hide his powers here, man. I have a time jump after this, as Jay and all of the others graduate from uni, when him and Joan then discuss what the future holds for them. Joan states she is going to help her father with his atomic bombarder scientific research, and Jay states he is off to New York to be an assistant professor at Coleman University. We cut to Jay reading a newspaper about some crime that has happened, and that night, he runs off as the Flash. The next panel, we see the gangsters confused at what just stopped them. Although we don't get too much context on the situation, then Jay just goes home to change, and sometime later, we cut to him in the open, once again, just in the open using his powers, playing tennis against himself, when along comes Joan. We find out her father has been kidnapped, but while Joan tells Jay the story, a car comes out of nowhere to shoot Joan, but lucky to have Jay as he springs into action, catching all the bullets mid-air. We see the shooter go back to the gang's hideout, thinking he actually has killed Joan, and see him talk to the other gangsters, saying that she is dead. They hope to use this to convince Joan's father to tell them the location of his experiment, the atomic bombarder one. We see Joan's father in a mirror room slowly going insane when one of the gangsters enters to demand the location, and although he still won't talk. One of the other crooks goes to retrieve Joan's body, hoping that this will persuade her father to tell them the location, but he runs into Jay, going to pick up Joan for their date, only to find out that she survived when she walks out to meet Jay. Shocked, the crook inevitably leaves after saying wrong house. Jay and Joan discuss what to do now, both agreeing Jay should chase them down and sort this out. He dons his costume and speeds off, tailing the car to the hideout of the Faultless Four, which is what we find out that the gang is now called. The crook goes inside to tell the others that Joan survived, when all of a sudden they're met by the Flash. They open fire on Jay, and he proceeds to catch all the bullets. And I love this bit because we also get to see an old-timey science breakdown of how he's able to achieve this, which I just love. Like, they try to explain it, and I feel as if they actually did it reasonably well for 1940. He then proceeds to run and search the hideout for Joan's father. Finding the man, he runs off to return him home to his daughter, saying like, you know, here you go, here's your dad and all that, before then rushing back to the hideout to spy on the gang and gather some information on their next steps and their plan. They plan to cause a big enough disturbance at Coney Island Beach so that while the police, the Flash, and civilians are distracted, they can once again kidnap Joan's father, and this time also Joan, from their home. On the beach the next day, Jay is disguised and waiting when he sees a man in a plane start firing down at the beach. In the blink of an eye, he changes into his costume and gets to work catching all the bullets and speeds off to Jones to save her and her father. Arriving just in the nick of time, the Faultless Four evacuate and run back to their hideout, but Jay does also. On the way, Jay says, this time, no mercy, which has just got to like be the coldest line ever from the 40s, man, like just like the Flash in general too. Once he enters the hideout, the villains try to spring a trap, and they're all in the room together, and one of them flips a switch that electrocutes the floor, but Jay moves the leader of the gang and himself away, just literally leaving the others to die, dude. And then somehow the leader just is like, I'm going to get in my car, it's faster than you, and just gets in his car somehow. But Jay races off after the leader, runs him off the road, and as he falls off the cliff, inevitably dying, Jay literally just races down to inspect the wreckage, and literally says, I'm on hand just to see your finish. See Satan, thus ends the threat of the Faultless Four. Just another cold old line, man, from old mate Jay. Like, he just does not care. Bro, all these heroes back in the day are just dropping bodies. Like, in every single comic, bodies have been dropped. And it's just so strange that now they have, like, this code, man. But literally, all of them, like, pretty much all of the ones I've done now, except for Spider-Man and I think Superman, they've just been gatted. But anywho, he goes as Jay to celebrate with Joan and her father. Then we cut to the end. That wraps up The Flash, issue 1 from 1940. If you made it this far, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more first appearances like this. But until next time, this is Comics, out.